Hi guys, I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time. It's important to me to kind of be myself and be transparent. As you can see by the title, I do live with chronic illness. In fact, I have a lot of medical issues, and these are things that I've dealt with and learned to accept. Of course, some days are better than others. Today is definitely better than yesterday, but I am going to kind of just sit here and do my makeup while I chat with you. I feel like I just want to play with makeup because it makes me comfortable. I'm going to color correct my under eyes first while I start. I'm just going to be using a peachy concealer, and I'm going to mix it a little bit with a lighter concealer. That way I get the right shade to just brighten up that area. Quick disclaimer, I wrote notes to make sure that I wouldn't ramble and to make sure that I had accurate information. I looked some of the information up, just like a few statistics and facts and stuff, but I will link websites in the description bar, and I will also answer any questions you have in the comments. So in 2010, I graduated high school, and I actually joined the military, and I went through basic and AIT, and I came home. Everything was fine except for a few like hip fractures and shin fractures and tendonitis in my knee and stuff. And my military career didn't work out, but it may have been a blessing in disguise, because it turns out that I had some things wrong with me that I never would have been allowed in the military if I had known. But at the time, I thought I was this completely healthy, normal 18, 19-year-old woman. I did a lot of P90X. I met my husband that year. I met my husband in 2010. So we did a lot of P90X and like long walks and workouts and really late night trips to Planet Fitness, and we were just these normal, happy, healthy people. And then December in 2011, I fainted, like a full blackout faint for the first time. And it was very strange, but I didn't really think anything of it because I didn't faint again until the next May. So May 2012, I fainted, and it was like within a week I was fainting 3 to 5 times a day. It was random and sudden. I dealt with a lot of doctors who didn't take me seriously, which now, you know, being someone with these conditions and being someone with an invisible illness, I've learned that that's quite common. Especially young people, and especially women, are not always taken seriously when it comes to invisible illness. So I felt like a lot of doctors acted as if I was making it up. And I mean, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want the hospital bills. So I just wanted to be taken seriously. And one doctor, I went in, I had an appointment, and I went in, and I was probably in the back room for like 3 minutes, maybe 5. And he listened to my symptoms. He said, "It sounds like you might have hypoglycemia. You should go ahead and look up hypoglycemic diets on the internet and adjust your diet." He didn't test my blood sugar. He didn't do any tests. He didn't ask any questions. He just listened to my symptoms, told me to look it up on the internet and go on about my day. And I was like, well, that's not it. So I went back to my family doctor. At this time, I had moved a decent ways away from my hometown. So I decided to just go ahead and go up there, and she listened to my symptoms and immediately said, "This sounds like it could be your heart." So I make an appointment with a cardiologist, and we do tests, and nothing's happening. The fainting continues, but tests are not giving us answers. And that's another strange thing. You start wishing for a test result to come back positive for something. You want an answer. You don't want to be sick. You don't want anything wrong with you, but you just want an answer. So that's where I was, just wishing and hoping that they would find something and I'd have some sort of answer. So I wanted something to make sense. I wanted to know that it wasn't in my head. I needed to know what was wrong, because I knew something was wrong with my body. And by this point, I was kind of off and on working. I would work for a little while, and then the fainting would start again, or all these other symptoms of just complete exhaustion and constant dizziness, even if I didn't like have a full blackout faint. It kept getting too difficult, and I would have to quit that job and then go back to the cardiologist, look for more answers. And apparently my cardiologist consulted with another cardiologist, and they kind of came to me with these two options. It may be long QT syndrome, or it may be something else. Long QT syndrome is a heart arrhythmia disorder that can cause arrhythmias, palpitations, seizures, and sudden cardiac arrest. And they did a blood test. They're going to test my DNA and check out my genetics for any mutations. So a few months later, my test results came back, and I had a gene that was mutated that resulted in a long QT type 3 diagnosis. There isn't anything like a cure or a quick fix, but there are ways to prevent something as serious as sudden cardiac arrest. Like, for example, I take beta blockers to keep my heart in a safe place. Some people have ICDs, implantable cardiac defibrillators, so that they would receive a shock if their heart needed it. And I'm not necessarily considered a high risk right now at this time. So I do not have an ICD, but I do have an implanted heart monitor. It's directly under the skin right here. The battery lasts 3 years, so it should actually, it's been like 3 years and 2 months, so it's about time to come out whenever the battery dies. There are other ways to stay safe with long QT, such as paying attention to the medications that you're taking. I have to check every medication I take to make sure that it is not something that can prolong your QT level. Your QT wave is if you look at an ECG of a heart, and these waves all have names on, I don't explain the ECG well, but there's waves with they're named, and the wave between the Q and the T is too long, and it's supposed to be measured, and I often get ECGs to make sure that mine is at a good, safe length. Being long QT type 3, out of all the different types, I think there's 15 if I remember right. I feel like I keep seeing more information about it. Someone with long QT type 1, type 2, or type 3 might have different, like, I don't want to call them risk triggers, but between exercise, emotional stress, and sleeping, they're all different statistics as to which type has an episode or an event like sudden cardiac arrest during one of those things. And the biggest one for type 3 is sleeping. So of course, that's something I have to deal with, is trying to be able to go to sleep, not thinking about whether or not I'm going to wake up. But otherwise, I believe the hardest part for me is that there's a 50% chance of passing it on. So the odds aren't good when you're someone who wants to have kids. The risk of miscarriage and SIDS are higher. Obviously, it's a difficult subject, that one there, because a lot of people in my life know, like, how badly I want to have children, and I hope that that's a possibility for me someday. But I guess we'll see when we get there. But regardless, I got my test results back, and I think it was August 2014, and my cardiologist, like, things weren't really getting better, and they kind of agreed that long QT wouldn't really cause the fainting, so they still needed to find answers. So I had to go see a specialist in Cleveland at the Cleveland Clinic. It's a great hospital. My husband and I went there, and it was just 2 days of nonstop testing from morning to afternoon. It was one test after another, and did some crazy things. But I was diagnosed with POTS. POTS was the reason for my fainting, my exhaustion, my poor temperature control, everything. POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. That is a form of dysautonomia, which affects the autonomic nervous system, so things that your body automatically does. I'm trying to, I don't explain dysautonomia and POTS well because there's just so much to it, so I definitely took a lot of notes. For example, like your body should adapt when you stand up. Your body does things like your heart rate increases and your blood pressure increases to kind of increase the circulation of your blood, because you go from the sitting position to the standing position, and the body has to work a little bit harder to move that blood from your feet and fight gravity to move it to your head, so that your brain is receiving adequate like blood and oxygen supply, you know? Well, it turns out mine doesn't do that very well. POTS is actually pretty common, but it's not often heard of, and it's difficult to diagnose. I feel like that's just one aspect of it being an invisible illness, that it's hard to be taken seriously. It's hard to just find the answer and know that, you know, this patient is not making it up. There really is a problem. Nobody wants to fall and get hurt. Nobody wants to be unable to do regular activities that they could once do. The way that I describe it to the people in my life, it feels like having the flu, being dehydrated, sleep deprived, and hungover, and you're expected to run 5 miles. Or you just ran 5 miles. That's what normal tasks feel like. If I'm doing a couple loads of laundry, that's what it feels like I'm trying to do. There are some things that POTS patients can do, like we have to drink a lot more water than the average person, and we have to increase our salt intake, and salt just kind of helps retain the fluids in our bodies so that we don't get dehydrated. Blood pressure medication is also helpful. I just took a dose, so it's like pretty fresh in my system right now, and I mean, there's definitely side effects that I don't enjoy. My skin is tingling, and it's very uncomfortable. It feels like the goosebumps. The skin just feels so tight and uncomfortable. But I look past it. It's worth it because it's incredibly helpful. I also drink a lot of Gatorade. I can also wear compression socks if I know that I'm going to have to stand for long periods of time, which I don't like to wear them. They are uncomfortable, and I don't find that they make that much of a difference. But one thing that I want to do that I haven't been able to do yet is to get one of those canes that folds out into a chair, because standing in line at the grocery store is a feeling I can't describe accurately. That's why I filmed this video yesterday, because I intended on filming and doing a makeup look yesterday, and then we went to a store. My husband and I, we went to a store, and after maybe 3 minutes in line, I was just exhausted, and I was getting frustrated because I knew that my energy supply for the day was going to be depleted. There's this thing called the spoon theory, and it's this concept of people with chronic illness they have a limited supply of spoons throughout the day. And for each task that might be difficult for us, we have to be conservative and delegate our spoons wisely. So our spoons are basically our energy levels and our abilities. So if I have a lot to do today, which I mean, I do. I have to do the dishes, I took a shower, I need to put laundry away, and I wanted to sit down and do this. I have to use my spoons wisely and designate them for things that are most important, because I know that I'm going to run out of my spoons. So that's why a lot of people with chronic illness call themselves spoonies. But that's kind of the best way to describe like how difficult it is to maybe accomplish a certain amount of things in the day. I kind of want to describe how these things affect me physically and emotionally, and then I want to describe how they affect my channel. Physically, the main thing for me is exhaustion, just pure exhaustion. When I'm having my really bad POTS days, I call them POTS flares. I don't know if like all POTS people do that, but I call them POTS flares. So if I'm in a POTS flare, which can be brought on by anything, the weather change is the biggest culprit for me. Any stress, just peeing on my period, like anything can put me in a POTS flare. A spike of adrenaline can put me in a POTS flare. So like if somebody walks up behind me and scares me, I'm screwed for the day. I'm exhausted for the day. It will steal my energy completely. But when I'm in a really bad one, all I can do is rest and drink a lot of fluids. And I do a lot of standing up and then immediately having to sit back down because I wasn't ready. A couple years ago, before we found the right medications for me, I spent about 3 months almost completely bedridden. There were a lot of times that I crawled to the bathroom if I had to go, because I didn't know if I was going to make it all the way there without passing out. There were times that I needed my husband to help me shower. It's really scary getting in the shower knowing, okay, this is gonna like completely drain me and I don't want to pass out and drown. I'm really fortunate. I have a husband who understands. He doesn't complain, he doesn't judge, he just kind of goes with it and is very understanding and supportive. So it's gotten better now, although I still get very dizzy and very exhausted. But another big problem for me is brain fog. I kind of get to a point where words just don't come out. I make jokes, like with the people that I talk to regularly, they know that I'll joke about it. And I'll just say, words aren't working today. But the truth is, like, my brain's not working today, and the words aren't coming out, they're not making sense. I can't remember things. So that's why I'm redoing this video that I did yesterday, because I thought it went well when I filmed it. Watching it back to edit, I was adding so many captions to try to make sense. Like, to try to edit in some sort of sense into the video, that it was difficult to watch. Another statistic that I found, I kind of wanted to make sure I was making sense of things and giving you accurate information, so I did some Googling before I started, but one of the statistics that I found that I hadn't really noticed before was that 25% of POTS patients are disabled and unable to work. There is so much shame and guilt and embarrassment with POTS, or with chronic illness, period. At least for me. Feeling like you're an inadequate adult, feeling dependent on other people, especially as a person with such like work ethic and goals, and I strive to do things and accomplish things. I'm kind of high strung about it. And if I don't get things done and if I don't get them done right, I kind of beat myself up about it. It's really important for me to like slow down and accept that my life has changed and I can't do the things that I used to do anymore. But the most upsetting thing is not being able to work. And I also don't drive. Some people with long QT syndrome don't drive. Most do. Some people with POTS do. Some people don't. Having the two of them being at risk of fainting and then not knowing if you're going to wake up from it because of long QT, like just the two of them and the fear of putting someone else's life in danger. Because of those spikes in adrenaline and heart rate and the way that they affect me, I know what happens. A couple months ago, a tow truck driver cut us off. It was like he forgot how long his vehicle was. He knew we were there because he wasn't in front of us, and he was behind us, and he tried to cut us off, and all of a sudden he was going to run us off the road. And just that quick little spike in adrenaline completely took out all feelings in my legs. That's another symptom I have. My limbs sometimes go numb. Sometimes they fall asleep. I can be walking or sitting, it doesn't matter. When that driver did that, I felt like I could stab my legs and not know it. That's how much I could not feel them. I absolutely hate being dependent on others. I think I've gotten to this point lately where I've realized I can't be mad at everyone for asking questions. Like Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming up. I am kind of dreading being asked the regular questions. Like, are you working? Or where are you working? And are you having children? My health is like preventing me from being the person that I wanted to be, and I never saw that coming. So whether it's someone asking me questions or somebody exhausting the crap out of me because even though they know that I can't do the things that they can do, and they know I struggle to do things, they still kind of expect me to do them, and I often don't stick up for myself. I try to be there for other people and help other people, when I don't get help in the same way. But I think I need to learn that if I'm a little bit more honest about how things affect me, then maybe people will have a better understanding. Which is difficult for me because the biggest reason why I don't talk about it is because I don't want people to see me as that person. I don't want you to look at me and think, oh, she's the sick person, she's the disabled person. I don't want my friends to think of me that way, or my family. I get myself stuck in uncomfortable situations, trying to pretend that I'm normal or healthy when I'm not. So as I was saying, I don't want people to see me that way, so I don't talk about it. I definitely downplay the situation a lot. I think there are friends and family who may be surprised. If somebody watches this video, they might be surprised. Because I just tell them I'm having a bad POTS day. Or I'm exhausted. Or I'm just not feeling well today. I don't really describe to the fullest extent exactly how difficult things are. And that doesn't work out in my favor because then people don't understand when I'm around them. They might not understand like why I need to sit. And then all the other aspects of it, just being ashamed of not working. And being ashamed to have to ask someone for a ride somewhere. I feel like it stole a lot of my independence and confidence. Because I feel like I'm lesser of a person, which I know that's not true. But sometimes it's just something I emotionally struggle with. As for how all of this affects my channel, I think brain fog, that symptom of POTS, affects my channel the most. Brain fog is the worst because I get confused, I say things wrong, or I forget to say something that was important. And I've noticed that in a few of my videos, even when I wasn't having a bad POTS day, like it's still there. There are just some days that are worse than others. The other way that it affects my channel is definitely the shaky hands. If I'm constantly having to drink fluids and eat food. If I get hungry, I already have the shakes. Like I'm constantly having to sustain myself in that way and try to make sure that I don't let it get too far or I'll be out of commission for the full day. So while I'm sitting here, if I'm here for a few hours, I start getting shaky and then there's absolutely no way I'm applying eyeliner or liquid lipstick. That happened in my Desi and Katie collection video. I was exhausted and I was shaky and my lipstick was a mess. I was trying to demo this liquid lipstick. Also, as I do share this spare bedroom with my husband's home gym weight set, there's really not room for my lights and tripod and table setup to stay in the position that it's in now. So every time I film, I have to do a setup and tear down, and I usually have to take a break after that. I just kind of sit and relax and drink some water to get my energy back. Because if I come on here with no energy, I just talk so slow and I feel like such a Debbie Downer. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'm still trying to figure out like what I like this little pencil brush for, because I really don't like it for underneath the eyes. So aside from the brain fog and confusion and shaky hands, the other way that it might affect my channel is obviously not working. I can't necessarily afford to go out and purchase every new release, and I feel like lately on YouTube, at least in the beauty community, tutorials aren't nearly as in demand as product reviews. Product reviews are getting the most views and like the largest request by subscribers. It's my channel, I'll just like do what I can do and I will try to do whatever you guys want to see, but I'm perfectly content with my makeup collection. I'm not like desperate for new makeup all the time, and I take my purchases very seriously. I thought about making a video on that subject. I also want to make sure that this video is not just like one big massive complaint about my life, because I'm very fortunate to at least, like, I have the best dog. I I have a small dog, so he spends a lot of time sleeping on my chest, and I just feel like he knows my heartbeat, because when I'm not feeling well and I'm dizzy or I have like palpitations and uncomfortable like pressure and fast beating in my chest, it's like he knows, because he spends so much time just sleeping and resting his head against my chest. He knows. He's such a sweet, smart dog. And obviously my awesome, amazing husband, he stuck by me. He took me to every cardiology appointment. He doesn't make me feel like there's something wrong with me. And if there are days that I can't do the dishes because it's a really bad health day, he won't say anything. So in many ways, I'm lucky, and it also taught me to appreciate life a little bit more, because a lot of people with long QTs say that not knowing is the most dangerous part. And I firmly believe that not knowing and going unprotected is dangerous, but I feel safer because I'm on beta blockers and because I have a good cardiologist who's aware of my condition and what I need. So if anything changes, I have that. I think the biggest learning lesson that came out of having something going wrong and then getting a diagnosis and working on like a treatment plan and how I can manage my symptoms, I think the biggest learning lesson was to pay attention to my body. I was always bad at, like, if something was wrong, I did not want to go to the doctor because I didn't want bad news. But it's more important to know than to ignore it and it be too late. I am so glad that I pushed for answers. When it comes to your health, you are your biggest advocate. I've also learned to pay attention to the people that you let in your life. And there is a time where you can cut the toxic people out. I've always been so bad at that. I give people so many like second, third, and fourth chances. But if they keep having this negative effect on you or your health, you can cut them out. It's okay. Because I feel a lot better when I surround myself with better people. As I'm wrapping up the last couple steps of my makeup, I just want to make myself clear that I've definitely not shared this with the intention of gaining pity. That's like the opposite reaction that I want. I just want people to learn to be a little bit more understanding. Like, everybody is fighting their own fight, and everybody has their own obstacles in life. I think everything happens for a reason, and if I needed to have these health concerns to teach me things like that, then that's fine. But what matters to me is being a good person while I'm here. And I'm not trying to get morbid, but that's the truth. I just constantly want to make sure that the people in my life know how much I appreciate them and how much I love them. So I tell them all the time. I can't talk and do lipstick at the same time. I don't know what lip shape I just gave myself here, but that's as good as it's gonna get because my battery's about to die. So I know everything just changed, but I applied a dark vampy liquid lipstick, wrapped up the video, went to go take the thumbnail, and it just was not flattering with the eyes, so I changed the lips to more of a lighter berry lip, and I like this much better. So as I was saying, I feel better kind of like letting the real me and truth and everything out and being more transparent on my channel, because I feel like I don't have to hide as much. It's a big part of my life, and to deny it and pretend that it's not doesn't help. It doesn't do me any favors. So I've accepted it. It's just nice to reach out every once in a while. So I appreciate you watching. If you subscribe, you won't miss my next video. I have a lot of goals and a lot of plans because I'm determined to still accomplish what I want despite everything else. So thanks for watching. Bye guys.